See them, touch them, feed them, splash with them. We're on safari at the Phoenix Zoo, but wait till we take you behind the scenes for a peek at rare creatures most visitors never get to see. Hi everyone, I'm Robin Sewell. Welcome to Arizona Highways. I'm here at one of those really cool places that when you get here, makes you feel like a kid again, the Phoenix Zoo, or I should say the world-class Phoenix Zoo. You know, a lot of people live here in Arizona and they don't realize that the Phoenix Zoo is one of the top 5 zoos in the country. So that's why we're going to take you on a tour and show you some of the unique exhibits, and we have special access to places that few people ever get a chance to see.
Phoenix Zoo has great interaction with the animals. The displays are really nice. You can see the animals are not hidden back behind a bush.
I have the peacock over there.
I mean, you can hand feed some of the animals. You can just hand it to them. They take it right out of your hand with their tongue.
The Phoenix Zoo wants you to get up close, feeding, touching, even getting splashed.
Well, I really love feeding the stingrays. Exhibits are really open and very interactive. I like it.
My kid's favorite?
Oh, look.
Well, seems to be the squirrel monkeys. These little guys, they're a little nuts.
They look so cute. I mean, they're like little people.
Even more like us, I think, are the orangutans. Their facial expressions are full of emotion and communication, sometimes almost human. There are also rare and exotic animals to be found here. These Komodo dragons look like they stepped right out of a sci-fi movie.
You're a very good girl.
Sometimes keepers and animals put on a show together.
Reba's very outgoing. She was very impatient when she came over here. She started talking to us right now. She's gonna start yelling again probably. Yeah, see, she's very impatient. She likes to play this game a little bit. Open up, honey bunny. So we like to play basketball a little bit sometimes with her. Elephants do have teeth. They've got 4 teeth in their mouth. They're about the size of red bricks.
Now I want to take you behind the scenes too.
So we're gonna give her 34 milliliters of goat's milk, and then she gets a little pinch of Boies, which helps with digestion. Today we are putting together one of our baby bottles for our Garanuk calf.
This baby Garno is just 2 weeks old, still too young to be seen in public.
It's not a deer. Nope, this is actually an antelope. The male of her species actually gets horns, and that's the main difference between deer and antelope is deer get antlers, which they lose once a year. Antelope get horns, which they have permanently their whole life. They are very fragile though. As you can see, her legs are extremely skinny. Before zoos started hand raising these guys, about 1 out of 3 wouldn't make it past their first year because of leg breaks. They are very fast. They can run about 30 miles an hour. What we'll do too is when they're really little, we'll get them used to being touched. A lot of wild animals in general don't like to be touched, but if we get them used to it now, when they're older, we're able to look at their legs, we can get blood off of them, give them their vaccinations, and we can do all of that without having to anesthetize them.
For school trips and other special groups, the zoo will also sometimes bring out some animals for a closer look. There is also hard work going on here to save animals.
I have the coolest job in the world, which is helping to save endangered species, and in some cases actually helping bring them back from extinction. At the Phoenix Zoo, early on, just after we opened our doors, got involved with something called Operation Oryx. This was a really cool program to try and save the Arabian oryx from the brink of extinction. We brought some here to the Phoenix Zoo, and we started breeding them up and eventually reintroduced them back into the wild. And now, any of the oryx that exist in the wild, many of them can be traced right here from breeding here at the Phoenix Zoo.
Off limits and out of sight of visitors, another rare and threatened animal.
The Mountain Graham red squirrel is a squirrel that exists only in Arizona, no place else in the world. It's isolated in this area called Sky Island, which is a mountain range that's surrounded by desert. Mountain Graham red squirrel is endangered, they're in decline, and we're working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife to develop a pilot breeding program in hopes of augmenting that wild population, kind of doing the same thing we did years ago with the oryx to keep them from going extinct, hopefully.
So next time you're on safari at the Phoenix Zoo, I hope you'll be amazed by what you can see, and I hope you can now appreciate a little bit of what you can't see. Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism.
We are on the San Pedro River, and the San Pedro is a small river. It begins in Mexico and it flows 140 miles, 40 miles in Mexico, about 100 miles in the United States, and it used to join the Gila near Winkleman. The San Pedro is the last best riparian, meaning habitat associated with water. It's the last best riparian habitat we have in Arizona. This literally is the last major undammed river. So it still can support this forest, cottonwood willow. It's the most endangered habitat type, not just in Arizona, but the entire United States. A lot of the rivers that we take for granted as being basically beat out flood ditches, the Salt, the Verde, the Santa Cruz, the Gila, once supported habitat just like this. We love to call them toe biters. You guys are going to identify them. This is Greyhawk Nature Center, and Greyhawk Nature Center is run right off of my property. So we're going to disperse from here all the way up to where that ripple starts. There is a current phenomenon nationwide called nature deficit disorder in children. And psychologists literally are pointing to a whole host of childhood psychological maladies tied into this nature deficit. Kids need to get out. They need to get dirty. They need to catch crawdads. We provide that opportunity, and the kids love it. Okay, you guys want to do this one more time? Yeah! The kids call me the Snake Lady because we are associated with native reptiles. We keep a dandy collection of snakes. All of them came to us as donations, as giveaways, as dumped, and we take them on the road. We use them here. We're trying to get people comfortable with what causes them to be uncomfortable. This is a black-tailed rattlesnake. They are known as the gentlemen of rattlesnakes because they are so placid. They will often let someone step right on them or put a hand right on them before they will strike and bite. And you might think this is a little risky to stand here with a rattlesnake like this, but I know exactly how far to let him crawl down my snake hook. They strike like lightning, but they crawl rather slowly. They're a very heavy-bodied snake. Rattlesnakes aren't nearly the threat that people make them out to be, and they certainly don't deserve to die just because they bumble into someone's yard or are encountered out on a woodland trail or a desert trail. Now, we don't bring them out loose like this for school groups, but often for college groups or adult groups. The reason that we do this is to try to get people to be comfortable enough with them that they don't want them dead. We don't want them comfortable enough with them that they want to handle them. I think as a species, we need to learn to live and let live. We need to let it all live, and then we can also live better.
Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism.
We're at Ramsey Canyon Preserve, 380-acre preserve in the Huachuca Mountains. We're kind of at an ecological crossroads here, where to the west we have the Sonoran Desert influences, to the east the Chiricahuan Desert, and to the north is kind of the beginning of the Rockies, and from the south coming up through Mexico is the Sierra Madres. So it's a convergence of these ecological zones where you get a lot of overlap, and that's definitely the case with birds. We really get a whole range of birders that come through here. Anything from a naive rookie who will come up and has just gotten their first pair of binoculars. Then we get some of the more serious birders that come to this area with a specific interest in a host of birds. And these people know what they're doing, and usually when you encounter them on the trail, they know nearly as much as you do, if not more. And you get the serious birder. Birders that will travel from Wisconsin or Texas or Washington because they heard there's one bird showing up in the Huachuca Mountain Range. And these guys come prepared. They know what they're after and they know what they want. And we often see those people coming through this canyon. There is, among these 14 hummingbirds that we've recorded here, a great amount of diversity in size and color, and the time of year that you would find them here as well. they're competing for resources. And so what we're seeing are displays to encourage some to come to the feeders and discourage others. And so they are often seen as playful. A lot of times people refer to them as dancing around hummingbird feeders. A lot of people will get kind of really tunnel vision when it comes to these birds. The birds are here, but they're also living in this great open area that is just perfect for hiking, for wildlife viewing, not just bird watching, but wildlife viewing as well.
Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism.
If you are looking for an action-packed adventure, then I would suggest we take a tour on the Green Zebra. Check it out.
It's an exhilarating ride. A bumpy, dusty, sometimes mud-covered off-road invigorating rush. The best part? You get to do the driving yourself.
You don't have to be a professional off-roader to drive one of these vehicles. You just have brake, gas, and steering wheel, and you're on your way off on the trails.
Most tours, you ride in the back of a Jeep or the back of a Hummer, and it's kind of dull. Out here, you're actually doing the driving.
We found this all-terrain Tomcar tour on the Fort McDowell Yavapai Reservation. It's 25,000 acres of pristine Sonoran desert just waiting for you to explore in a whole new way.
There's about anywhere from 40 to 70 wild Mustangs on the property. Beautiful, beautiful.
The wind blowing in your face, the dust blowing around you, and the open air of the vehicle. Add on top of that the adrenaline and excitement you get from driving one of these awesome Tom cars, and it's just a great tour.
The tour begins at Fort McDowell Adventures, just outside of Fountain Hills.
As far as the speeds on the tour, they're going to vary from slow, rocky, technical areas, and then there's going to be some areas that are a little bit smoother and a little faster. So the speeds are going to vary with those conditions.
After a brief how-to and safety lesson, our group straps in.
You need to be tight enough that you're comfortable and not going to fall out.
Okay.
Safety.
And we're off, caravan style. With the wind and dust whipping all around, we go from a breakneck speed of 25 miles an hour, it feels faster than it sounds, to maneuvering over some pretty fun and rocky terrain.
I don't even know where to begin. It was so much fun.
Now that we got you way out here in the desert, those free waters are now $5 each.
Along the way, our tour guide pulls over and shares some facts about the desert and just lets us catch our breath and enjoy the scenic views.
We stop at different interesting points in the desert, and people get out there high-fiving each other. They're having a great time, and you can just see the permanent smiles on their face with dust all over their face, and you know, it's a really once-in-a-lifetime experience for them.
During our excursion, a trip that can last 2.5 hours, we got lucky and for a brief moment spotted wildlife in the distance.
Wild horses, among all the other wildlife that's out here. Southwestern bald eagle and javelinas, coyotes, red fox.
I loved it. It was an amazing experience. Everything we got to see, it was so much fun. I'd never done this before, and I would totally do it again.
With a grin from ear to ear, we totally agree. This trip is one we will definitely do again. Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism.
There you go. Oh, whoa!
This is the free flight area.
There is much more than just bears inside Bearizona. This special arena is set aside just for the birds.
Peregrine falcons can dive at 200 miles an hour.
Birds with a serious bite.
She only weighs 2 pounds. And she's a good-sized hawk, and she could actually take down cottontails that weigh 5 or 6 pounds, jackrabbits that weigh 8 to 10 pounds. These Harris hawks can actually catch prey and kill them that are bigger than them.
There's no cage here. Twice a day, this show puts them right over your head.
They only fly about this far over your head.
Oh, great.
One of the only things that will eat skunk is owls, and this is Sassy, our resident skunk. We need an adult volunteer to come up and give us an example of silent flight of the owls.
I'm no skunk, but somehow I've landed on stage, volunteering to help show some of these birds' abilities.
Okay, Robin is no longer this beautiful lady. She is now a beautiful mouse. Because we're gonna play a game today and we're all gonna be mice here. You have to be our guard mouse.
Oh, I'm the guard
sorry.
mouse.
You're gonna have to tell us with your good mouse hearing if you hear an owl coming, okay?
Just all of you know that your lives are in my
That's
hands.
right.
Do you feel confident?
That's right. She's our guard mouse and she has to protect us.
You're all shaking your heads.
First, I get a blindfold.
Now I feel really vulnerable.
Then it gets worse.
You can't talk anymore, you're gonna have to squeak because you're a mouse. But I'm gonna give you squeakers so you won't have to do it yourself. Okay. And in Arizona, safety is our #1 concern. So we don't want to lose volunteers, so we're going to give you a special owl repellent hat. Okay, so now you got your hat. I think you're ready, Robin.
Ready for what?
Now everybody has to be quiet while we bring out the owl, okay? See if she can hear it. Oh, that was pretty good. Did you hear him roar?
Yes, I did.
We'll take off your blindfold.
Where is he?
You're perfectly safe. Take off your blindfold. And look behind you. And there's Malachi. Now, if he didn't like to say hello, most people can't hear his wings flapping, so that's why we do this. But he likes to say hello. So guess what? You don't have to be a mouse anymore.
How did I do?
I think you did great. What
How
do you
did I
guys say?
do?
Let's give her a hand. She saved all our lives.
I
Good
saved
job,
the mouse
Robin.
time.
You
Thank you very
did.
much. Is that good or bad?
Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism.
Yeah, they'll bite you. If you're not careful, even sometimes when you are, you'll get a bite. And you know, that bill is made to tear open carcasses, so sometimes we get our carcass torn.
Biologist Chris Parrish is talking about these massive California condors, the birds that he and fellow scientist Eric Weiss are working hard to save from extinction.
You learn as a field biologist to endure the elements. After a while, it becomes kind of funny. If you can't take it with a laugh, then it'll get the best of you.
Yeah, Chris and Eric get bit from time to time. It's just in the nature of these condors, which are vultures. What is also in their nature is to eat things that have died. It's how they stay alive.
Culturally, we've depicted vultures in general. You know, they sit around in the bare trees waiting for things to die. But in that, being a scavenger, they have to be fairly inquisitive and they have to be fairly smart to make it.
So if you really want to know what these condors are like up close, Chris says picture your average Thanksgiving turkey, but with one big difference. Their wingspan can go 6, 7, 8, 9 feet, sometimes even more.
But keeping them alive is a struggle. These X-rays of the birds show bits of lead, bullet fragments that many of the birds eat without meaning to. They are the dark spots on this X-ray, the white spots in this X-ray. The fragments come from bullets hunters use to bring down big game. What the hunters leave behind, the condors eat.
What paralyzes the bird as that lead gets into the system.
Lead from bullet fragments.
And the #1 cause of death here is lead poisoning. And we can do something about it, and Arizona hunters are playing a huge role in using non-lead ammunition and helping us out.
More and more hunters are now using these, copper bullets instead of lead. Chris says by the late 1980s, just 22 of the birds were still alive. The California Condor was almost extinct. Chris and Eric work for the Peregrine Fund, working hard to bring them back. Now, there are more than 70. All those crazy yellow lines on this map are a good sign. The lines show where the birds go, clear to Utah, California, and New Mexico, and quite often into the Grand Canyon. Depending on the winds, they can fly 60 miles an hour and travel hundreds of miles in a day.
That bird's sick.
On our visit, 2 of the birds they've trapped for tests are showing dangerously high levels of lead in their blood.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, if a bird's sick, yeah, you don't want them to have lead, you don't want them to be sick. On the other hand, every bird you catch with high lead is one more that you might be able to save. The ones you don't catch that are out there feeding on their own, coming across what they may, those are the ones that may die. So I'm pleased we got these 2. These will be 2 that we can probably save with treatment.
To do that, they will have to gently cage them, then bring them down off the 1,200-foot Vermilion Cliffs. For 2 others, a small victory. No need for treatment. With his bare hands, Chris releases them back into the wild.
You're handling a bird that could live 50 to 70 years. This bird might be out there reproducing long after I'm retired. And my kids, maybe even my grandkids, will be able to see that bird. That's doing something in conservation that's for the future generations. I think it's most rewarding, you know.
Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism. David Voisard is a man of steel, but he doesn't wear a cape or tights, just jeans, ball cap, goggles, and a torch.
I try to make the sawdust inside the building and make the sparks outside the building.
David used to do a lot of pieces before he ventured into steel.
A lot of my work is for the Napa Valley wineries. We lived there for 22 years, and they package fine collections of bottles in handcrafted, hand-dovetailed, hand-carved presentations. In '99, one of my clients there asked if I could make her 3 tables if she gave me $10,000, because she heard I wanted to start playing with steel. And I said, yeah, I think I could do that. Bought a used welder, used torches. The first table we made, suspending her 6-liter bottle at auction, went for 45 grand. It turned me on to the fact that if you heat up metal, you can move it, and it was a whole new medium after 20 years of woodworking. I'm one of the few people that go to a junkyard with an empty truck and leave with a full truck. I love the fact that recycled junk by somebody's understanding can be made into something artful and beautiful.
While David's wood art is very refined, his steel art seems to bring out his whimsical side. Check out his birdwatcher sculpture. And when it comes to whimsy, nothing touches his dogs.
Dogs are my passion, as I have alluded to. I found that the balls for trailer hitches work great as noses. My metal dogs are much better behaved than our real dogs. I appreciate that. I like what the wind does to their movement.
Lately, David's taken to making steel signs and steel hearts.
I love making hearts out of steel. There's something about the permanence of steel and the personal of who you know.
Bits and pieces of his metalwork take up a lot of space in his studio. But this man of steel lives to do one thing.
I think life can be far too serious. My favorite fine art is fun art, and that's what I try to put out in the world.
Thanks everyone so much for joining us. I'm Robin Sewell, and we'll see you on the next Arizona Highways.